And so just let me know. We're on we're on slide 1, Justice.
Okay, thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. So I was really asked to maybe give a local example of a CWPP that was developed from the initiation all the way through the request for proposal with the intent of trying to encompass and embody the elements of the cohesive strategy, using the CWPP as a framework for developing a local cohesive strategy. And Wendy, you can go to the next slide. Everybody's pretty familiar with the elements of the cohesive strategy, I'm sure. I don't know if every community is making the connection as that being the one mechanism they can use to develop and frame a local cohesive strategy. But for us, we really use those 3 main elements to organize the CWPP, to organize some of our stakeholders and cooperators, and to give folks participating a sense of place and ownership in an area that they could relate to and understand why they needed to be at the table. And so if you go to that next slide, the correlation of the CWPP and cohesive strategy. One of the things for me, because I participated in some of the early cohesive strategy, specifically the Southern cohesive strategy, that connection was pretty evident. But what we found going into the planning is that not everybody had been able to make that same connection. Some were familiar with the CWPP. Some wildfire mitigation was new, and so really their only point of contact was the cohesive strategy as a framework. So we worked hard to make that connection between creating fire-adapted communities that are defendable and leveraging the community-level collaboration as a mechanism to engage the human element of the WUI issue. When it came to prioritizing hazardous fuels projects, we really put everything in the context of restoring these fire-adapted ecosystems to be more resilient to wildfire, and ensure that our approach to landscape scale mitigation wasn't a series of projects, but more a fuels mitigation program, and taking a little more holistic approach, more than just prioritizing and ranking potential projects. And then really something that somewhat I think was lacking from early CWPPs, somewhat intentionally, because there needed to be emphasis on planning and mitigation, but ensuring that there's effective and safe wildfire response, and that we looked at the other elements of the CWPP development in relation to public and firefighter safety and firefighter effectiveness, to try and bridge that gap and keep land managers, our planners, and community representatives, and our firefighters and emergency responders engaged and at the table. So that correlation of our overarching goal of having a cohesive strategy and using the CWPP as a framework was an important foundation for us to build under the auspices, as I mentioned, that the Austin-Travis County CWPP embodies that local strategy. And you can go to that next slide. In fact, if you want to move one ahead to what's at stake, that would be great.
Okay. Got it.
If you're looking at what's at stake side, we also are a very urban community, and most people don't associate life in Austin with wildfire, and if they do, they feel like it's an issue for those living on the fringes or in the defined wildland-urban interface. But because most of our population isn't in the WUI, but we still need community-wide support of wildfire preparedness planning, we wanted to create the picture that everyone had a stake in whether we were prepared for wildfires, whether you lived in a high-rise in downtown, or you were a subdivision or community resident, or if you were one of the folks lucky enough to own a little bit of land in Austin or Travis County. You all could be potentially impacted by wildfire, and really work to associate folks with the values that could be affected, and tell that story of our risk assessment through the values. So you can go to the next slide, Wendy. And for us, our kind of battle cry for wildfire preparedness is that wildfire is everyone's fight, and like we learned through fire adaptive community, really comes down to knowing your role, and that we all have one based on values that can be impacted. For us in the fire service, our role is different than maybe other partners, and so making sure that the fire department was keyed in on where their role lies and who we need to engage outside of that context. So really for us, it was focusing on building situational awareness for us in the public, using our risk assessment to tell the story in a way that resonated with people, that we were pre-planning our early response for firefighter safety, and then the 1,000 or so firefighters in the department understood that part of this work was an effort to help them be successful and stay safe, to communicate a realistic expectation and outcomes to the public and our partners, and to, wherever possible, leverage or mitigation efforts into operational advantages so it results in defendable communities, and to put the entire CWPP planning effort in the context of life safety, and that the things that folks were doing to contribute to this effort were contributing to firefighter and homeowner safety, not just landscape resiliency or other values added. So if you go to that next slide. We also wanted to make sure that the cohesive strategy was something that could be boiled down and reflected at the individual and community level. And so we initiated a pilot mechanism to engage individuals and families in the fight against wildfire by helping them understand their role as a family unit and responsibility to prepare themselves and their family for wildfire. Using those same strategies of hardening their home, creating a resilient landscape around that home, and ensuring that they had the situational awareness to operate safely in that fire environment, especially when a wildfire occurred. And so it's that grassroots buy-in. We're really working for our community to understand and embody in their specific role and as it relates to their unique geography, and ultimately resulting in best case scenario where we have the ability to respond as effectively as we can, our landscape.
Is that it? I wish I could see the slide.
Justice, are you there?
Or did we lose him?
Justice,
maybe we lost him. Is there more slides that he has?
Wait. Unmute. Hey, Justice, we lost you there for a little bit. Are you back?
I can hear y'all. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened, but I was just about done. So really the final phase of trying to embody our cohesive strategy is aligning the tools that we're using to engage the public based on that same foundation. So you have consistency from leadership all the way down to the individual grassroots level of how a community embodies the cohesive strategy through that CWPP planning framework. And that's really all I had to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Justice.